Now, I'm sure a lot of people listening are thinking, well, I see a whole lot of issues with that. Should we dive into a bit of the ledger recover service and kind of what happened with that announcement and what the concerns were with people? Do we want to go down that rabbit hole?
Yes.
Yeah, we can do that. Did you have anything you wanted to say about it, Ben?
So
Start at the beginning.
Yeah. I guess
we'll give a full history.
Yeah, maybe we'll just outline what it is or what the announcement was. So the Ledger made an announcement last year about a new service called Ledger Recover. The idea was that your private key would be effectively uploaded to the cloud, albeit separated into shards, separated into pieces. Three shards. One with Ledger and two with, supposedly impartial third parties. And so the idea was that even if you were totally irresponsible, you lost your seed phrase, you lost your device, you could contact Ledger, and then you would provide ID and say, I'm so-and-so, and I lost my seed phrase. And they would then reach out to the other third parties and be able to reassemble and send to you your seed phrase. Now, I'm sure a lot of people listening are thinking, well, I see a whole lot of issues with that. And no shit, so do I. But the general idea for me, like in an interview, they were talking about this service and a lot of people had concerns with it and everything. And they were asked, the CEO was asked, well, what if law enforcement were to reach out and demand access to these keys? And the question was initially kind of dismissed as very unlikely to happen, but a little bit of prodding. Well, yeah, of course we'd have to comply, and they could. And so not only does that then put you at risk of, oh, the government wants my Bitcoin, they can get it. But number two is, what's to stop somebody internal to the company pretending that there had been a request on the behalf of law enforcement,
or even just doing it? I don't even think they'd have to pretend.
Yeah. So like a social engineering, anything could be like, we don't know exactly the processes in the background, but like if it can be given up for a quote unquote legitimate cause, which I would say is still not legitimate. The whole point is to, be self-sovereign over your funds. Then it could also be released unintentionally for the wrong people, quote unquote. But yeah. And
I'd just like to add that this applies to adversarial actors too. If the key can leave the device through this Ledger Recover process, if someone can hack or find a way to replicate and imitate that process, they can pull the key out on their own. And I don't know if that's even possible because, like I said, like the firmware, it's all closed source. We can't see. So yeah, that's just something to think about too. Like it might not be safe even if you opt out of this.
Oh, dude. So do you remember how a couple years ago they had that big data breach? Like, what would happen if that happened with key material?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
well, the thing is, they say the keys, the shards, they can only be decrypted by your ledger, by your device, right? But what happens if, if let's say I opt in for that, but I lose my ledger and then I need to use Recover. So, I mean, it has to be another way to be able to decrypt those keys, right? They can't just say, well, only one device can decrypt the keys. So, I mean, it's just, and people, like they say, oh, I didn't opt in for the Recover service, but just the idea of the seed phrase being able to leave the device, just it's possible to do it is just a big issue, obviously, because even if you
that's the whole point of the hardware wallet.
Exactly. So
yeah.
The other issue too was, we're saying, oh, this is an opt-in program, and that's what they were saying. Well, if you don't like it, you don't have to use it. And then the next question, obviously, is how can we check that this isn't actually just running in the background unbeknownst to us? Like, can we verify that we are not just auto opted in, and then when we actually opt in, it's just already, they just kind of flip a switch so we can see it? And the answer is you can't really check that, again, because you can't really view what the source code is doing. And so that kind of was a whole other bag of worms. Like, you're now worried about the security of your seed phrase, and you want to check that it hasn't been, used in this program. And, they say that it's not, but there's no way for anybody really to check that. And that's kind of a scary thing as well.
And there was a way at first to kind of, it was on a specific firmware. You had to upgrade to a specific firmware on the ledger to be able to use Recover. So if you did not upgrade to that firmware, in theory, the Recover service, you can never opt in. And in theory, the seed will still be locked. The thing is, at first, you can just use Ledger Live without, updating. But at one point, after like 6 or 8 months, I don't remember, you couldn't use Ledger Live anymore unless you upgraded the firmware. So you were just stuck, basically. You had no other way. Even though if you didn't opt in for the service, you were still on that quote unquote bad firmware that allows the Recover seed. The Recover service. So.
Wow.
How certain are you that the decryption needs to be done on that individual ledger? So, like, if pretend I had a ledger, pretend I wanted the service, I gave them the shards, and I wanted to decrypt it. The only way that can be done is on that individual first ledger?
That's what they say, yeah.